extremely different. And vehicle presentation out there on the road is so much different now to the way it used to be 50 years ago. And we're looking at a period around that time at the moment as a start off, although now when you see something a little bit earlier than that is coming in. The first vehicle into the arena is the ERS. ERS, the E stands for Edwin and the F stands for Foden. Everyone knows about Foden lorries. Don't forget about the ERS, which commenced production in the 1930s. It was full age in the Foden family. And Edwin decided that his family should be manufacturing diesels and not just steam engines that they were still making at that period. The family disagreed, so Edwin went off, and there is the result, an ERS, later on in the company's production period. In fact, towards the end of the period in which they were being produced, because eventually they were sold to the foreign competition as were all our independent vehicle manufacturers. So mostly we still have one left. That's the Foden there from the 1970s, and now the Atkinson from around the same period. This is a six-wheeler. Now they're both heavy-duty articulated tractors with that block on the back, which is a ballast weight that stops the back wheels bouncing all over the road, and they tow long, heavy trailers for various uses. And there's the option from there. This is working on very heavy haulage with the old traditional wall of death ride. There used to be a mobile system for a lot of our female environment when our M4s used to rally us all over the country. And there are very less nitrogen. The articulated tractor, as you can see, it's quite a small articulated vehicle by today's comparison. And that's and also the Bedford Rigid pulling in next to it. Then we have a timber crane. Timber crane of the, looking at the tractor from here as it's going past, you can see how you see Matador from the immediate post of what on the outside period, the Matador tractor. We will those selected and the people of the vehicle, followed by two fraudulent able to be supplied almost 40 mil to many Lorrys purchasers who actually used Lorrys at the time. Coming straight down now on the far side towards the point, that is the Bedford. You can see there's a case area, a little lighter version of the 28 horsepower manual engine. Goes up to about 1.5 ton weight. Following them, the Vulcan. And the Vulcan was a vehicle was the same part for this there. This is perfectly, I think I'm on the perfect side on the front. A small production company of the period of the late 1940s. Bloxham, have courageously and generously led us to use this site over all the years of the rally where we've been here. And it's great to see a local back on the lineup. It's the earliest commercial in the lineup here today, and this takes us back to about 1929 for Dennis production. This was the predecessor really to the military. And the folks were always one that didn't get as many as you'd like to have seen here on the UK road, purely because it was a long trailer and the next response put them over into a bank operation. I should have got a trainee driver on board that one. Now from the same family, and the first of our lady lorry drivers. Scanias and Volvos. These are the workers on the road today. The heavy end of the transport. They're doing the job now. At one time, camels were in the field. Here you go. I remember when they first opened the British Army, they showed big commercials for the long time series. And another one from the Herbert fleet. Only vehicle. Riding vehicle only. And here we have the recovery truck that everybody needs. Fully working as you can see today with the electrical lift on the back. In operation, which gives you the suspended tow. Just keep the angle on the hook on the plane. And obviously the recovery manager way in doing and we had to make sure they were chained on properly and didn't fall off. But no, for putting on such a wonderful show for us. What about a quick toot-up? Can we hear a little bit of noise? A little toot-up to say that we started the rally today? Can we? Operator on the British road. Although later on, after the camels were really under the thumb of the moment, they had their part carried on under the native umbrella. Genesis man, Sabre fire and fire. Sabre were the people who were equipped and sometimes even designed the body. Peter Hayes, one of our regular exhibitors here at Bloxham. It's good to have a good, reliable core of exhibitors. And it's great to see them here enjoying themselves. What it's all about. That is to the game, but the Gardner diesel. These were the Rolls Royce of the articulated tractors at one time. You could touch them on the road. Uphill, down dale. That was until Leyland came out with the V8 Perkins. And that would manage to get uphill quicker than the Atkinson was, although you still couldn't test the Atkinson on the flat. I know that from experience back in the 1970s when the V8 Perkins arrived. Here's the straight six Perkins engine, the same on the Perkins V6 there in the front end of the brewery. 12 volt in there from the late 1940s. That's a vehicle considered stored in the brewery with the original operator. Very fine work in the here. And that's just as close to I think this family once again one of our major sponsors of don't get much more major than I suggest that the local community should be aware of, because it's clear that it is making so possible. This direction is generating of all the thousands of pounds, which is actually still giving the spare wheel is still the original fitting, which is a solid tyre. Now for the Herbert family, who put a lot into their presentation of the exhibits here every year. Beautifully lined out, beautifully presented. Company colours, company lighting, and then a little bit of individualism there for the noisy one on the end. The owner drivers still out there, still working on our roads. No mistaking that red, that's Lorrys red. But not actually often on the Formula One. That's actually green. Well, thank you to our commercial vehicle drivers and enthusiasts putting on that parade for us. And perhaps the one you may not have noticed amongst all of them is that little three-wheeler there. Possibly noticed that there's something a little bit different for you here today. We were going to have a closer look at this thing yesterday, but
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so both sides now have the safety feature caps off so they can make sure that their rifle barrels are dry and clear. And now they'll be going to the next command, which is to load. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, a larger box on their right hip. Be they shift their body positions to make sure that they're able to aim safely between the racks. And the volley is given. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, the first volley is usually the most devastating. And they quickly get through the process of reloading. Experienced soldiers would be able to do this in about 20 seconds.
No, it's just the first one.
There you have the volley from the Confederate Army, ladies and gentlemen, and again, straight away, the Confederates get to the process of loading their rifles. Now then, sir, will you be wanting to then fire by rank next?
That's the point. Yeah. Look through the window.
Stop.
Hard down. Jeremy said we're going to get the police as well.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, they...
Straighten up.
Yeah.
Straight.
Brother or brother.
Here, got a ground pressure of 5 psi. A normal army soldier, marching army soldiers, putting pressure at 5.5 psi, so these are lighter footed than a normal average soldier walking. So at the minute now, they've got the transfer box or the gearbox in neutral, and they're just spinning around. So they can spin at 365 degrees on one spot, same direction as quick as you can really see there, and straight there, straight to the forward gear and accelerating off. These tanks can do 50 miles per hour forward and also 50 miles per hour backwards. So they're very light and nimble, quick, and that's why the British Army chose these vehicles. Also, the British Army had 10 variants of these tanks, so they're all different caliber guns, troop carriers, recovery vehicles, missile carriers. So that's how we sort of won the Falklands War with these vehicles, because they thought to get through the Falklands War it was going to take 12 hours to get through the marsh, but one of these tanks did it actually in 6 hours, so 6 hours ahead of schedule. Just because how light-footed they were, the capability, the speed.
There's a bit of activity going on in the arena again now. We have the miniature steam coming in, but as well as that, we've got some full-size steamers for you as well. And obviously the rollers in here doing a bit of a job, because the miniature steamers, well, they're miniatures, they're smaller. And somebody's been dragging the ground about a bit here, and there's a few lumps and bumps which aren't always conducive to smooth running when you're running a little tiny miniature steam engine. And honestly, I don't know what size miniatures are likely to come in. They're right down to some very small ones that we sometimes see actually in the arenas. So we've been very fortunate. The steamrollers come in early, but it's just taking some of the bumps out the arena for the miniatures. And miniature steam. What about miniature steam? What's the fuss about it? They're just little engines, aren't they? You know, they're toys. No, they're not. These are real steam engines. Have a good look at them as they go by. These are identical to the large engines that they've actually been built on. They're built to scale from. All these are engineered pieces. These are real live steam engines. They run on coal, they boil water the same as the kettle does that makes your tea in the mornings when you get up. That's what steam engines are all about. They're about real live steam. And these, you can't get closer to steam than you can one of these engines, because you're actually generating the heat in the boiler. The boiler is the long bit that holds the wheels together as it goes past you. If you look, the front wheels and the back wheels, there's no chassis. They're just held together by that boiler. The boiler's the long tube. That's where the kettle boils. The exhaust pipe of the engine is the spout of the kettle. It's the chimney that goes up the front. That takes the smoke away, because there's a fire burning at the other end of the boiler to get the boiler nice and warm. And the water is contained in tubes that run through that boiler, and it's boiling away. And it's producing steam, but it's not steam. You can put your hands through steam, as that will take the skin off the bones, but you can actually put your hands through steam without causing too much trouble, because steam doesn't have any energy. It's just boiled water. It's water droplets. But if you put steam under pressure, there you get energy. And an engine like this, which is going past me now, is working on somewhere round about 100 to 125 pounds a square inch, exactly the same as the roller behind me. And it's running on that same pressure. So what pressure per square inch? Look at your hand, look at your body. We are under pressure. There's an atmospheric pressure that pushes down on all of us. And I forget now, I've got some scientific brains over on the side of the arena here, but I'm not going to embarrass them by asking. I can't remember whether it's 16 or 18 pounds a square inch air pressure in good old feet and inches. But we're talking, what's pushing down on us all the time is somewhere around 16 to 18 pounds, which is why a diver gets the bends when you drag him up out of the water too quickly, because he's coming from one pressure zone to another. And there you can see very clearly on this engine just gone past me here on the commentary point. Right behind the chimney that sticks up is another funny little thing with some brass tubes on it. That little bump behind the chimney is actually the engine block. It's where the pistons are working inside, driven by the steam which is actually produced by the fire down by the driver's feet of the engine. But there's two men driving most of these, or two people in the crew who drive most of these engines, because the full-size engine has to have a driver and a steers person. What's the steering on a steamer? Look at it when it goes past. Those delicate little dainty chains that you put across the driveway, you know, to stop people coming in. No, they're the steering chains. There's the engine, that black lump, and those are steering chains, and those chains are worked directly by the wheel that the driver is turning. Now the driver on a full-size steam engine that you see here, coming past us now, the driver is on the near side. You always check because some engine builders put them on one side and some on the other. The driver's on this side of that engine, a bit slowly, it is still being powerful. The flywheel you see here, coming up to us, is on a Garrett agricultural engine. And you can see right through that flywheel, I'm not going to put my finger in there because it's actually spoked, it's like a bicycle wheel. And you can see through that flywheel. You can't see through the flywheel on that one because that's a road locomotive. The agricultural locomotive needs to, you've got people working all around you, carrying hay bales and all sorts of things and working on the machinery that you're working on. So you have to have a flywheel you can actually look through, make for a safety purpose. Whereas the road-going locomotive has a solid flywheel to keep it going. And this one's got the other alternative to keep it going, and that's its own mobile beer garden as well, which always helps too. And you can see there that this week it's Hook Norton, which is our local brewery. Right, now this is a road locomotive and a half, isn't it? Look at the size of this wheel as it goes past me. Now I'm over 6 foot. Some locomotive wheels are up here on me. That's designed to haul out on the road. It's got a big heavy flywheel. That's keeping that energy. That's spinning round. That's working all the time. And that's what you'll see mirrors on all these little engines, and they are not toys. They are not models. They are miniature steam engines. And now we're seeing the full-size example of what you've been looking at coming around the arena. Look at that beautiful example there. That is exactly what you would have found working on the field or alongside crops. Harvest time, this time of year, they'd be out there driving right the way through from thrashing machines to balers. All sorts of wonderful pieces of machinery. This is the typical road roller now. Aveling designed this one. The man who I spoke about earlier, who was really concerned about having to pull, he designed the self-propelled road engine. And you can see it's a road roller. It's not a light road roller, it's a heavy road roller. Aveling sent rollers all over the world. They started manufacturing down in Rochester in Kent. Thomas Aveling actually was a farmer on the Romney Marshes. And those were the road rollers that this country was supplying across the world. New York, bits of New York were built with road rollers. Steam rollers were actually used on sections of the M1 when that was being laid. They were still in use then. But that is a big heavy road roller for crushing stone. Later on you didn't need to crush stones anymore because you put tarmac down, and you needed a roller that would actually when the tarmac went down, the roller needed to flatten the tarmac without tearing it up again. So you had water cooling systems to keep the wheels damp and cool, just so that the tarmac wouldn't stick to the wheels while the rolls were on. Now this engine coming past now you'll see its name down by the road wheel. The name of that engine is Starlight, and that's got a long working history on the showground. It's been restored over the years with a lot of labour, and it's been driven as well. And Who's this old geezer driving it? Well, Bloxham Steam and Country Show actually runs for the local community. And it's the local community that run it. And he's a bit of a local who's actually driving it today. And he's been chairman, up until very recently, of the Bloxham Steam Society for a great many years. He didn't know he was going to get stuck up there today, did you, Brian? Nothing to do with me, I didn't know either. There's been a conspiracy right across the showground. We've got Brian Wells up in the cab, in the cockpit there, in the hot seat, driving the engine today. How many years did you drive this one for on and off? 15? 16? 15. 15 years. Tender position. You realise why now, don't you? Yeah. Well, there's Starlight for you, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of local history, and the family managed to stitch up Brian for once in a while. One of those unsung heroes that keep events like this rolling and running. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you very much for everything everybody's done there in the Wells family, and with the rest of the exhibitors on the showground. Without the exhibitors, we do not have a show, and without the public to come in, then we don't have a show either. It's a tremendous bit of teamwork. These days, we need money to put shows on. That's where the sponsors come in. They pay to put the show on. We can put the show on, we can take some money back on the gate, and that money goes to local charities. And people in the locality are actually beneficiaries of the charities that we support at this showground. So thank you very much, everybody, everyone in the team. Thank you for that marvellous opportunity to say thank you to everyone. So thank you. Now, we're looking now at the steam parade that you see lined up. There's the miniatures along the front. I said there's every type of steam you can imagine there is represented amongst the miniatures. The steam wagon right down on the end, agricultural engines next, another Foden steam wagon. As I say, Foden's made steam wagons from 3 tons up to 7 tons carrying capacity on 4 wheels, and they also made them up to 6 and 8 wheelers over a period of time. Then we've got the road locomotives, the road rollers, the all-important part of communications at one time, keeping the roadways made, and right the way into showground use on the end with the showman's engine, and that splendid example there of Starlight that Brian is up in the cockpit driving around the arena this afternoon. So there's a marvellous display. It's all about preservation. We're preserving Brian. One of these days I threatened to have him tickled actually, but it hasn't quite happened yet. We nearly had him tickled once or twice. But there's decelerate a little bit down at the bottom. But it's making ground now. And it'll come round. Because you might wonder what that was. Well, you can have a look what it was when it arrives in a minute. Sorry I've got to work in one place on this arena, but at least it gives somebody a chance to see what's going on from some positions around the ring. There's the Ruston roller, quite an unusual one in many places. There are lots of Rustons made. Rustons made all sorts of that'll do nicely, sir, thank you very much. Now, you might have wondered what on earth's going on here. You've got that dog under control there. Good, yeah, we don't want to frighten the dog in a minute. Now, this is a steam car. Oh, what a novelty! Oh no. What? Now, I've got to go round the other side because it's a foreign car, you know, they never worked out what side to put the driver on properly. But, you're not pumping the tyres up, are you?
No, we're pumping a bit more water in the boiler.
Oh, so you boiled some water already today, have you? I saw you filling up at the tanker earlier. How many tanker fulls have you had so far?
Only one fill up. We've done about 35 miles today, driven over from Whitney.
So 35 miles on one kettle full of water is not too bad, is it? Think of all the tea that would have made. Never mind. Now, this is a steam car. It's a Stanley. What year?
1907.
1907. Now, is this a replica, by the way? The real thing? Now, are you the original owner?
Unfortunately not, no. I wouldn't have had to have paid so much for it, but there we are.
Whatever possessed you to get one of these?
I like to get somewhere quite quickly. They're quick and simple.
The area. So, engine man, you get near those whistle cords and let's hear it for Bloxham. Come on. I think they're just about finished. There's always one who has to have the last tweet. And you heard there that different noise from down by the Stanley. It tells you where all these steam whistles have come from on the full-size locomotives that we have in the arena. The only engines they used to put whistles on as standard were on ploughing engines, because ploughing engines used to talk to each other from one side of the plough line to the other, and sometimes there was a hill in the middle and they couldn't see each other, so they used to communicate by whistle. The other whistles only went on by special order. And it seems incredible that at the beginning of the 19th century there were 125 manufacturing businesses in this country building steam for the road. Can you believe that? How many vehicle manufacturers have we got in this country now? Not a lot. It's more like assembly. But that was not 200 years ago, really. Rust and decay is a big thing on a steam engine because it's out there in all weathers, it gets wet internally, externally, it's subject to heat, extremes at both ends of the heat spectrum, So your metal's constantly expanding and contracting. It's also being subjected to the acid which burns out in some of the coal fuels. So there's rust and there's decay on all steam engines. That has to be remedied, because otherwise they're not safe to use, because that 125 pounds of pressure we were talking about earlier will blow its way out of the boilers. Now just imagine it, just for a minute, you know, if you've got a minute, imagine this engine that's coming towards us now. Imagine it blows up. Have you ever seen what happens in an explosion? Well, that engine will suddenly turn into lots of little sharp bits of red hot metal, and it would clear the whole side of this arena, and probably a good chunk of that side as well. And it'd even blow the microphone out of my hand. It would be awful. But that is what won't happen in this country, because every one of these engines has its regular boiler checks and its regular pressure checks. It's like a double MOT. Everything is checked, and it's checked absolutely thoroughly. And that's every steam engine that you see. Even the miniatures are subject to boiler checks, because they're running on pressurized steam. The engines you'll see on some of the big steam fairs you go to, you'll see that the roundabouts and some of the rides are driven by an engine in the centre of that ride. Those engines have to be steam checked, have to be boiler pressure checked as well. The safety is absolutely paramount. But it's one of those features that means that engines are constantly being rebuilt. The tubes in the boiler wear out. They get hot and cold very quickly. They get wet most of the time, so they rust. A boiler has to be retubed, and a boiler has to be repaired, and a boiler has to be reclad. Underneath that metal around the outside of the boiler, that's the nice pretty bit, you know. On this ransom here, look at these lovely brass bands round the boiler. Well, it's all very pretty, isn't it? And it gives you somewhere for the manufacturer to put their name. You know, they were proud of that. They certainly should have been. There's the engine on the top. We've been through all this. You can tell that's the engine because the paint's peeling off it, because it gets confounded hot up on that, a working steam locomotive. And it works, and you've seen it working around the showground today. But underneath that thin skin of metal there, you can see the doors that take you through. But underneath, just like a ship's boiler, same thing, underneath is a woodwork, all part of the insulatory part of it, and all part of the boiler formation. It's all part of the safety, and it's all part of the efficiency, because insulation means efficient conservation of heat. We all know about that with our homes today. It's exactly the same. Now, that one is a twin single cylinder. Single cylinder. This is a single cylinder steam engine. What year? 1918. First World War, single cylinder steam engine. So let's